what do you know about Justin Jefferson's readiness? Because I believe you're doing the Vikings and Texans game for NFL Game Day morning for us, correct? You'll be there on
I will
Sunday?
be out there on Sunday. I
Okay.
was at the Vikings practice facility yesterday, making a fairly rare appearance over there, as everyone let me know. Justin Jefferson was on the practice field, but he was not really dressed for practice. I saw photos of him today, kind of dressed the same way. It seems like they're really limiting him through the course of the week here. He's got a quad bruise. Those can be problematic at times when you talk to doctors about them, just because they can be really painful. They can lead to stiffness. You can lose range of motion. Jefferson, when he talked to reporters, said that he for sure intends to play here. There's obviously different things you can do on game day to try to loosen that thing up. So at this point, I would anticipate that he's going to go. How effective is he actually going to be in a pretty big game against Houston? That remains to be seen.
Okay. And so 49ers just emerged beat up from losing in Minnesota. George Kittle wound up on the injury report with not practicing with a hamstring, on top of Debo being out, on top of McCaffrey being out. I guess tell me about Kittle, whatever you might know, and about what the Niners are going to do offensively and how they're going to perform if they change anything up. Tom?
Well, Kittle was actually carted off in the game on Sunday. They attributed it to cramps. The thing is, when you get cramps in your hamstring, sometimes that turns out to be an actual injury and not just a matter of dehydration. So, yeah, I mean, the 49ers are really beat up. The Rams are really beat up. If you were looking at this, I think most people on the outside would have said if anybody in the NFC West is going to challenge the 49ers this year, it's going to be the Rams. But think about this. The Rams have no Puka Nacua. He's on IR. Cooper Kupp is not expected to play for at least a couple of weeks here. They got 4 offensive linemen who are on injured reserve. And then flip side of that, everybody you just mentioned, no Christian McCaffrey. Remember, they lost their number 2 running back, Elijah Mitchell, to a season-ending injury back in training camps. They're playing with their number 3 back right now. You've got no Debo Samuel at this point. George Kittle, we'll see exactly what his designation ends up being on the injury report, but that's a lot of firepower that's not expected to be on the field, all of which, if I'm sitting there and I'm Mike McDonald in Seattle or I'm Jonathan Gannon in Arizona, I know there's a long way to go. You got 15 more games. The 49ers seem to go through this cycle all the time. Every other year, they'll have a very healthy year or just a total disaster of injuries. This so far looks like the disaster of injuries type of year, but you got to think, hey, we might have a little bit of an opening, especially with the way the Cardinals looked on offense last week, and Seattle, even with still kind of growing, it's not entirely pretty at this point. They've done enough to win so far for a new coach.
And what about Jordan Love? He was practicing in pads, and he called himself hopeful. What do you know about him right now?
So he's been out there all 3 days. That's generally a good sign. It seems like, the Packers are historically a very conservative medical team, but the fact that he's able to go out there and go through as much as he is would indicate that he's largely got a green light, at least in terms of testing that injury in practice. In the end, Jordan Love also has to make a decision here because the advice, the medical staff can clear him, but if he doesn't feel like I can function, I can protect myself, then, frankly, he shouldn't put himself onto the field. Matt LaFleur has already said they're going to take this all the way up until 90 minutes before kickoff. I would anticipate that by tomorrow morning, LaFleur is going to have a really good idea who his starting quarterback is going to be. Last week, Rich, everybody thought it was just pure gamesmanship, but they really thought, hey, if Jordan Love wakes up feeling good on Sunday morning with no practice, we'll play him. The same goes here. Now he's actually getting some of those practice reps. How he feels through, how his body responds, how the knee responds to 3 days of practice is going to guide a lot of that here. In the end, if the medical staff signs off, it's going to come down to Jordan Love. The original timetable was 3 to 6 weeks. This would be like 15 days, 16 days after the injury, so certainly on the bottom end of that timeline, but they were always optimistic. Other guys play with MCL sprains. You can brace it up. You just got to make sure, it's probably not going to get worse. That's the thing about MCL sprains, particularly for quarterbacks, but you got to make sure you can go out there and function, not put yourself at risk of taking a different type of hit that might give you another injury.
Catch the Rich Eisen Show every single day on the Roku Channel, 12 to 3 Eastern, for free.